Well, a very good evening to you. Thanks for clicking on this video blog this evening. I actually was intending to do a UK-Europe video blog, but I've been sidetracked quite a bit this evening by overall patterns and players on the field, stratospheric warming, volcanoes going off in Alaska, and it's an exciting time we live in terms of climate and the changes that are unfolding before us actually at this stage in the winter season. Now, although nothing's written in tablets of stone yet, we do still have those changes taking place, those finer details that could lead to something much grander further down the road, and that further down the road looks to be around the midpoint of January onwards. Is really a time where I think we could see a vastly different type of weather pattern across not only here in the UK and across Europe, but over the hemisphere as a whole. And why do I say that? Well, we're seeing that stratosphere continuing to warm. It actually appears to be warming from Asia, and it's actually going to start to bleed across the pole over along the Alaska and North America side of things. Now, that would suggest that we've got a very, very strong pool of upper level cold air over a large part of the UK and Europe, as well as down into the northeast Atlantic as well. That doesn't necessarily mean very cold weather here, but the changes are starting to take place. They're starting to show up here, and that is the thing that's making me quite excited actually. Now, next week it appears to be, and the models are showing this, a few of the models are picking up on this now. We've got a pretty certain idea that we're going to see the first truly Arctic air pushing into, first of all, the central United States, so down through Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, and then that will eventually start to slide eastwards towards the eastern seaboard. So folks across places like Minneapolis and Chicago, you're going to be feeling the effects of this push of very cold air, first of all, by around Sunday and the Monday, and then by about mid next week you'll have that trough. As it continues to deepen, it slides off to the east, and folks in the eastern United States, all the way from, say, Buffalo, New York, down to Florida, in fact, by middle of next week you're going to be seeing very, very cold weather. It will be a major shock to the system, given the fact that we've seen such a warm autumn season here in the UK, but as well as that across the eastern United States. Have we got that big flip changing? Well, just because we've got Arctic air pushing into the eastern United States doesn't mean to say there's really much in the way of a big change. However, we're also seeing Arctic air, the coldest of the season, pushing southwards through northern and eastern parts of China. That will, we have seen snow, of course, in Beijing, if you've been following the blog, but we will see further increased snowfall chances from about Sunday into next week. So, while we're seeing that push of very cold air reaching the mid-latitudes over North America, we'll likewise see that over eastern parts of Asia. And at the same time here in the UK, as well as particularly across Scandinavia, southwards through Germany and to Poland and towards the Alps as well, we'll see much colder air pushing in. The pattern, yes, is still progressive, but we are seeing that stratospheric warming take place. Is starting to we are actually, interestingly enough, the way that the stratosphere is warming over the polar region, it's on if you're looking at a map from bird's eye view down onto the pole, the left hand side of that pole, so basically from Siberia around towards Alaska, is warming up. The very, very cold air is then being displaced over towards our part of the pole. What's interestingly enough is we're seeing a very powerful pressure gradient over the pole. Does that suggest that we've got very, very powerful winds blowing across the pole itself in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere? So there is changes, there's movement, there's breaking up of that polar vortex over the pole, and I do think it's, interestingly enough, that we are potentially seeing that flip to a more neutral Arctic oscillation. I think that's the reason why we're seeing that Arctic air being allowed to drift south into the mid-latitudes and actually seeing some winter over parts of eastern North America and eastern parts of Asia. That's your two cores of coldest for the mid-latitudes, and I think that is the first signal here to perhaps a 2 to 3 week period of major changes taking place. We will start to see, I think, the cold becoming more prominent in the mid-latitudes, and I think there is very, very interesting times to come as we progress into the new year. So we'll continue to keep looking at this. There is plenty to look at. It's going to keep me very busy. I've been trying to keep up to date as much as possible, but there's just so much to look at. Folks, I'm no expert when it comes to the stratosphere either, and the stratospheric warming events. I'm still learning myself, so I'm trying to digest information before I put it to you here on YouTube, and as well as that, Facebook and my blog itself, Twitter as well, of course. I don't want to leave folks out on Twitter. But continue to keep checking back. I encourage you to do that, and we'll follow the pattern together as it unfolds. Have a great evening, folks. Bye.